It's time to explore the world according to Glenn. I'm Kevin Jacobsen. Glenn Close is my favorite actress, and this show is all about exploring the career of one of the finest actors of her generation. Each episode, I'll be joined by a guest as we dive into one or two of Glenn's movies, TV shows, or stage productions, going chronologically through her career, discussing her performance, and assessing the projects themselves. And today we are talking Glenn's performances in the IFC indie dramas 5 to 7 and Anesthesia.
Time nominee Glenn Close, motherfuckers.
My guest today, I am so excited to have back on the podcast. She is the voice behind Female Gaze, the film club, who joined me for the In the Gloaming and In and Out double feature. She's back again to do another double feature. I guess that's her niche. Welcome back, Morgan Roberts.
Oh my gosh, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me back. I am both excited and terrified to talk about our double feature today.
I think that is perfectly fair based on my own feelings as well. No idea where this conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
Before we talk about Glenn in these two, let's just say, low-profile films, to be diplomatic, you told me on your first episode your relationship to Glenn Close. So now I'm going to ask you to get a bit creative and think like a casting director a bit. So Morgan, if you could cast Glenn Close in any film, what kind of film and role would it be, and why?
I mean, I obviously love when women, especially women like Glenn, who've been in the industry for so long, work with women. And so, I mean, like we were just talking about Sofia Coppola before recording. I think she would be incredible as like a sad woman in a bathtub, whatever Sofia wants to do with her there.
Sure.
I also feel like I really love Kelly Reichardt, and I would love to see her kind of explore something. Again, I love sad. What's so funny is all of my favorite Glenn performances are very campy, but I just want to see Glenn in something like devastatingly sad, directed by a woman that I love. Or if she wanted to do something like maybe silly or fun, like Leslie Headland, I think would also, she's such a great director, and so I think that she could find anything kind of zany and biting for Glenn to do. So those would be three women that I would choose for Glenn to work with.
That's excellent. I love that you brought your female gaze angle to this, because Glenn has not worked with a whole lot of female directors. I'll be honest about that.
Yeah.
She has with like TV movies and such, but feature films, oddly, not as much. So that would be a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I think it would be lovely for her. And again, like she's worked with so many different types of filmmakers. I mean, obviously, like working with someone like Rian Johnson, I feel like is both probably a dream for an actor and a little bit of a reach, because I don't think even with the Knives Out movies being more mainstream and more accessible to audiences, I still don't know if he's like fully, I'm part of this type of juggernaut type of filmmaker.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just want her to do something devastating with some ladies who love to make devastating movies. Or again, let's switch it up with Leslie, because she'll do something fun.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always talked about how, not always, but more recently have said that I really want her to do a Chloe Zhao movie. I think that would be really beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
Something akin to Nomadland, I think she would totally excel in.
Devastating cinema. I think she really would. And especially like with a woman, or even like a Sarah Polley, who, I mean, got her start with directing Julie Christie in such a profoundly important and beautiful performance. And I think we're starting to see kind of the tides turn of like women aren't quote unquote nurse in Romeo and Juliet anymore once they hit 40. Like they actually, it's still difficult, but like, you know, even Familiar Touch last year was such a great showcase for a woman who is not an ingenue and gets to have so much nuance and breadth to her work that I feel like if Glenn was working with a woman, even like Sarah Friedman, who did Familiar Touch, she would, I don't know, knock it out of the park.
I love this idea. I'm very into
Yeah,
this.
Glenn, call
Sometimes,
us.
yeah, I was gonna say sometimes when people suggest these things, I'm like, well, we'll see, we'll see. I don't know how realistic that is, but like if that happened, I'm like, ooh, that would be amazing at this stage in her career
For
too, because
sure.
she's still got this in her, and now I just really want this to happen. You've manifested this, and I hope it can truly be
We'll keep
manifested. So,
manifesting. Yeah.
well, on that note, it's time to get to what we're here to talk about today, which is a double feature that I've paired together because I feel like neither of these movies could truly stand on their own as like an individual episode worth a lot of material, all due respect. It just is something where I feel like both of these movies felt like they could pair well together as New York indie dramas, coincidentally both distributed by IFC Films as well, so seems right. So we're first starting with 5 to 7. So this is an interesting one. This comes from writer-director Victor Levin, who had written a few films before this, including Win a Date with Tad Hamilton, Then She Found Me, My Sassy Girl, and We Are Family. So he had a bit of experience, but 5 to 7 was his feature directorial debut. All he had directed before this was an episode of Mad About You in 1999, so a show where he was also a producer and got some Emmy nominations. He was also a very recent Emmy nominee as this film was being made as a producer on Mad Men. So a decent pedigree, but this was a big step for him. He had worked on this for quite some time, developing this script based on a real-life encounter he had with a French couple he met in the late 80s who had an open marriage, a very modern arrangement, and he was kind of struck by how casually they lived, even having like their boyfriend and girlfriend living with them all together, kind of. So this led to the concept for this film, which is about a 24-year-old struggling writer in New York City named Brian, whose life changes for the better when he meets a married French woman named Ariel outside of the St. Regis Hotel, and they engage in an affair, but she tells him they can only see each other between the hours of 5 to 7 p.m., which is sort of like a French custom for recreational activity. He actively pursued Anton Yelchin for the lead role after seeing him in the movie Like Crazy. Diane Kruger was supposed to play Ariel, but couldn't work it out in scheduling, so she was replaced by Berenice Marlowe, who was known at that time for playing Severin in Skyfall, which had just come out. And then Glenn got involved because the film was co-produced by Mockingbird Pictures, which had produced Albert Nobbs. So she had a close relationship with the executives at Mockingbird Pictures, Bonnie Curtis and Julie Lynn. They suggested Glenn for the role of Arlene, Brian's mother, and Glenn said she liked the script and just agreed to do it. So, okay, to summarize the film and reiterate, 5 to 7 is an independent romantic dramedy about a 24-year-old struggling writer named Brian who meets this beautiful married woman, Ariel, outside the St. Regis Hotel. They eventually have an affair, and Brian has a bit of culture shock as he enters a world far less traditional than the one he knows. And eventually Brian introduces Ariel to his parents, Arlene and Sam, played by Glenn and Frank Langella. Arlene is much more favorable to the idea of this relationship than her husband is and gives her blessing. And as Brian finds some success finally as a writer, he eventually decides he might want to marry Ariel, which naturally causes complications as she's already somewhat happily married and has 2 children. So yes, Morgan, you had mentioned to me earlier that you had a bit of a soft spot for Anton Yelchin, which is why you checked off this movie on the form that I sent you for a possibility to do. But yeah, what are your overall relationship, or your impressions at least, to this movie and Glenn's little supporting turn here?
Yeah, it is. First of all, I just have to say, this film has 8 endings. It's not a long
Yes.
movie, and there are so many endings to it that I was just like, is it over yet?
Mm,
That said, I mean, Glenn shows up. Part of me is just like, I love when she gets to just do whatever she wants, but the film continually being so tonally all over the place, I was just like, oh, here's just another tone to add to a movie that's already extremely messy and incohesive. So,
yeah.
I mean, not her fault because, again, a director should be like reining people in. But I mean, she only has like a handful of scenes. I think her biggest moment is that she goes to a fancy dinner and refuses to sit down because the chairs aren't comfortable. And so she
Yes.
stands. And I'm I need to know if Victor Levin has met more than just that French couple because his idea of what French people are is insane. And
Yeah.
I need to know if he's ever met like a woman
Mm.
because that
Hmm.
is also, I'm just like, I don't know if it's giving 12-year-old boy with final draft access. Like, I just don't know. Obviously, we have Ariel, and then her husband also has a mistress, and
Hmm.
we have her kind of in the mix, and they're just so thin. And then you have literally Glenn Close in a movie playing a mom, which I get it. It's the 2010s, and we were just like, mom equals vague maternal energy.
Yeah.
But you do
Glenergy.
nothing. Yeah, but you do nothing with mom energy or full on Glenergy. You just kind of are like, can you be as Glenn Close esque, but as mundane as humanly possible? So then that way we're not taking away from this central character who also has nothing going for him. It was so sad to watch.
Hmm. Yeah. So for me, this is one of those movies where it was only made 12 years ago, which feels like a while ago, but it's also not really all that long ago, and yet this truly feels like it is of another generation. I really don't think you could get away with writing a movie like this in this style with this level of kind of playing it straight and the earnestness, and especially the focus on this as the main character without it being just ripped to shreds. Like, it feels very much like a male fantasy, essentially. Like, here's this somewhat amiable young guy who just wants to improve his life and be discovered for his, like, whatever, like artistic brilliance, I guess. And then here comes this impossibly beautiful French woman who adores him from the start and is rarely able to really show dimension beyond that, like on her own terms. And she helps to be the inspiration for his future writing, of course. And there's like some drama to the idea of like they ultimately are kind of doomed lovers in the end that are torn apart. I just think even by this time in 2014, it was starting to become a cliche, I would say. Like, I think a movie like 500 Days of Summer kind of deconstructs some of this a little
Hmm.
quite well. Ruby Sparks, which I believe is one of your favorites, I
It
thought of.
is.
It's
Hmm.
another one that kind of does that well. This just kind of plays it straight. And I'm like,
Yes.
ugh. I was waiting for like
Well,
a twist or something, and it never happened, you know?
mhm. Or even as, I mean, mentioning Leslie Headland earlier, sleeping with other people, you
Yeah.
have this character who, Ariel has no agency. She just like all the men in her life like make decisions, even though she is seen as like hip and cool and having agency to have an open marriage. But like every turn her life is dictated by these two doofus guys.
Yeah.
And, sleeping with other people, I think had these really great, and it, sleeping with other people came out the year after this. So, like, there were good movies being made.
Right.
I don't know why this one was, no one was like, let me get another human person to like actually fix your script or try
Yeah.
to resuscitate it in some way.
Yeah.
Because, sleeping with other people kind of has that, this tried to be like a rom-com dramedy with 5 to 7, and sleeping with other people, I think, is like a rom-com with some dramatic moments. And there is so much nuance and like there's so much agency that all of the women in that film, because it's not just Alison Brie, you have Amanda
Hmm.
Peet in there too. And so just thinking about all of these films that have really interesting interrogations about interpersonal relationships and dynamics. You mentioned Ruby Sparks, another one that kind of deconstructs the manic pixie dream girl. And 5 to 7 was like, what if all we did was as many manic pixie dream girl cliches in one movie?
Yeah.
how would we feel about that?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it really does feel like a movie that was, in fact, in development for many years and then
Hmm.
wasn't really revised to like keep up with the times, really.
Yes. And I think the open marriage aspect of the film
Mm,
too is just handled in such a, I don't know, a boring, egotistical straight guy way.
yeah.
Because it's like people have had it didn't just start in the 80s when people had open marriages, polygamous relationships. Like those have always existed.
Hmm.
And to act like this guy goes to France, which apparently it's only happening there, and it's only happening in the 80s.
Yeah.
It it only starts in the 1980s. That it's like it just feels like so juvenile, and if there's going to be like this star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet aspect that you're going to add to it, you also have to be mature enough to talk about what an open marriage can look like with good consenting adults that communicate.
Right.
And they get the communication part right in this movie. Like people do know about it. They know about the other partners, those
Hmm.
types of things. But then there's like all of this judgment kind of below the surface in every conversation,
Yeah.
even with the people who are like the consenting adults. And it's
Hmm.
so wild to me. I mean, not to be derogatory further, but like I could also only think about the horrible movie Jenny's Wedding, which was just like some straight friend was mad and made a weird movie about queerness and one of the worst movies. Please don't watch that. But that was like the other thing where I was just like, who are you mad at? Because I can't quite tell.
Hmm. I think, I mean, for me, Anton Yelchin does quite a bit of heavy lifting
Sure
to
does.
make it far less insufferable than it even could have been, like even worse, you know? I think he is quite charming here, personally. Berenice Marlowe, I think, leaves a bit to be desired, but it might just be the limitations of the script, honestly.
Hmm.
I thought Glenn was pretty good though. Like I love when she does come in and give it a little bit of a burst of color at least. Like she definitely brings the comic relief, sort of like that very classic sort of like unself-conscious, very irony-free mother energy or Glenergy. And it's
Glenergy.
just like, yeah, like this very infectious joy I think that she brings and like kind of an enlightenment ultimately that is quite fun to watch. I will say that.
Yeah, but it is unfortunately because again, the script is so bad. It is
Yeah.
all so surface level because you do
Yeah.
have this mom who is showing like I'm supportive of you being in a relationship with someone who also has other relationships in their
Yeah.
life. But she's just kind of doing it in a way of like, I have to go see the Book of Mormon, so I'm just going to tell you that I'm, which jump scare.
That made me
Um,
laugh. Yeah. It's like we are truly in 2014.
yeah, we were that really they were like timestamp.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put this musical in there. But
Yep.
it really was just kind of like she's accepting, but like she just says the words. There's nothing
Yes.
outside of her like occasionally showing like there's one scene where like everyone shows up to this gala type thing for Brian after he's had something published and
Yeah. In the New
um
Yorker. Mm-hmm.
yeah, in the New Yorker and you know, they're supportive of that. And then, like, you have his dad going, like, I'm really uncomfortable because, yeah, his son's girlfriend, her husband, and his mistress are all sitting in the same row.
Yeah.
And that is funny, but there's like nothing outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
That is just like, okay, the situation is uncomfortable, but like she's just hushing her husband the whole time, going like, be quiet. And it's like, well, why not kind
Yeah.
of acknowledge that this is a little uncomfortable because they're slightly open with their dynamics, but they're not super public about it. And here they all are in this public space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this is maybe a tangent, but it's something I think about with some Greta Gerwig movies of like, especially Lady Bird, where there are certain filmmakers who really are very gifted at making each individual character feel like they are kind of living in the world independently of each other, even when they have these close connections. And then there are other movies, such as this, that feel
Mm-hmm.
like there is one main character and none of the other people around them have individual lives. They just are in relation to the main character, and that is their purpose. That's very much how I felt watching this. And even with Glenn, unfortunately, it's just
Yeah.
we barely interrogate why she is approving and why her husband isn't, other than like a few tossed off conversations. But it's just, yeah, never really interrogates or lives up to its potential of how awkward and kind of weird this situation is to begin with. So,
Hmm. Or like, I think that there were so many opportunities where you were getting hints at like Brian's relationship with his parents. His dad is always trying to talk him into going to law school. His
mm-hmm,
mom kind of still wants him to go to law school, but is obviously like still being very supportive. And then
mm-hmm,
you have this introduction into their relationship, and like, yeah, mom is very supportive of it. And we have just kind of one offhand phone call to tell us, like, oh, yeah, she's the more supportive parent. And
right.
it's like, there you have these what could be really good introductions into their dynamics. And then Victor Levin's like, no, I need this runtime for all nine endings that I have of this movie. I can't dig deeper into their relationships because I also think that, like, as you were saying, Anton Yelchin is very charming in this
Yeah.
film. I I like Crazy was a film that I watched a lot in college, so I'm like, I totally get why someone's like, oh, I need to do a romantic comedy movie
Mm-hmm.
in the mid 2010s. Like, yeah, Anton Yelchin would be the person that you would go to. And I feel like he and Glenn had really great energy together, but like none of it was explored. Like you could kind of see that like they're two really good actors trying to cobble something together, but they don't have the material enough to like let that come into fruition.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating for me at every turn because again, like I kept waiting for like there to be something smarter and more subversive to kind of like be thrown in here to make it seem like this is not just going to be a cliche kind of story, and that just
Hmm.
never happens. Like it really feels like this is just one of Brian's like made up fantasies he has in his mind for one of his stories. And it's like,
Hmm.
what if there was just a reveal by the end that like it turns out he never had this relationship and he was just daydreaming about this woman he saw outside of a hotel and this
Yeah.
was the story. Like that would probably make people mad by the end, but at least it would interrogate a little bit.
Yeah, I was waiting for a Saint Elsewhere snow globe to be like the
There we
final
go.
ending of this movie because I'm like,
Yeah.
you can't have all these people in a movie and do this to them, but apparently you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. And I think just some of the dialogue even is kind of excruciating, to be honest. Like,
Truly.
after they eventually consummate their relationship at one point, it's like the aftermath, and she calls him like a natural lover, and that his body expresses beautifully what is in his heart. I mean, this is just nauseating stuff for me. Like, I think the film really needed to be a little less in love with its main character, honestly. Like,
Hmm.
it is so afraid to give him any flaws. And I'm just like, he just is like a cipher of a person at this
Yeah.
point.
I
And
mean, even when the husband confronts him,
yeah,
says the line like, "I didn't mean to injure you," and I'm like, who says that? Who says that in like a normal conversation when you've
yeah,
just been hit by another man? Who
mm-hmm,
says, I did not mean to injure you? Like, you can say, I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to cause harm. Those are
mm-hmm,
normal people things. This is someone who was like, because, we didn't have Chat GPT at the time, but someone is truly typing into their thesaurus.com synonyms for hurt and they found injure and they were like, oh, brilliant. I'm going to put this in my screenplay.
yes. I hope this isn't like offensive, but it sounds like the dialogue feels like one of those instances where a international director, perhaps a French director, decides to make their English language debut, and then like some of the stuff gets lost in translation to the point where it's like it just kind of hits your ear wrong when you hear some of these sentences, you know?
Yeah, which I mean, I get it. English is a hard language.
Sure.
Yacht has way too many consonants right next to each other for it to make sense. I get it. But I'm also just like, what are we? I think this is mainly also my other problem with this film and a lot of films in general
Mm,
is like 90% of the time, what's wrong with a movie is its screenplay
yeah.
because it's the foundation. It is what's leading everyone from the director to the actors to even your editor, everyone, their religious text for the shoot is your script. And if you are so precious that you cannot let other people read your script, give you feedback on your script, maybe even partner with someone on your script,
Yeah.
you probably should not be a screenwriter.
Fair point. Yeah. I mean, it does definitely feel like a movie that is written and directed by the same person solo.
Yeah, and derogatorily.
Yeah. Like, right. I
Derogatorily.
mean, like, that could be a good thing in some cases. It's
Mhm.
like a very authorial voice is very present in the movie, but sometimes it's like too present in this
Mhm.
case, and you wish for someone to put them in check. So,
Yes,
yeah.
I was injured. I'll tell you
You were
that.
you were injured watching this movie. Yes. I do want to just drill a little deeper into what Glenn has to do here because again, I did find her perfectly innocent within this movie. Just the way she asked the waiter for a different chair did make me laugh. Just the very like again, unselfconscious like she doesn't really care or understand even how odd this sounds. She's just like, I'll just stand. And she's like, no folding chairs in the back even. And she just stands up like with her head out of frame as this is going on, which is very funny. And the Book of Mormon mention also made me laugh, just the specificity of it. But
Mhm.
it almost felt like an ad lib what she said at the end too, which she's like, "We're seeing the Book of Mormon, not the original cast, but still."
Yes. It very much feels like suburban mom coming
Yes,
in
very
to
that.
like, yeah, especially asking for a folding chair.
Yeah, and of course asking for a vodka martini. And
Hmm.
then he says she'll be passed out by intermission at this rate, and that he'll have to sing the second half to her in the car on the way home. Like classic sort of bickering married couple stuff. Even though I will say, to your point earlier, like this feels like it is from a completely different movie from the one we've been watching up to this point. It's just like, this is funny on its own. It just doesn't seem like it's like a part of this movie, if that makes
Hmm.
sense, you
Oh,
know?
totally. Yeah, it's kind of like you're watching this movie that takes itself way too seriously, that really has this score that is taking you out. And
Oh
then all of a
my
sudden,
God, this score.
I was just
Yes.
like, what in the hell am I watching? But then
Insane.
Glenn Close shows up, and I'm like, what different movie was she sold?
Yeah.
Because I feel like she and Frank Langella obviously were told the same thing, and they show up and they're like, "We got this together." And then, as an audience, you're sitting there just thinking, like, "This is a completely different film."
Yeah.
I don't know where these two like transported from, but like she's completely shifting the energy. A film that has not been funny at all kind of has like these little comedic quips added by her. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's great, but also I just feel like I'm in another dimension.
Yeah. She just is like transported from like an ABC sitcom as well
Yeah.
as Frank
Yeah.
Langella too. Yeah.
They really went, they were like, hey, we're making this like melodramatic Hallmark movie, and we need you to bring TGI Friday
Yes.
sitcoms into this movie, please and thank you.
Right. And now it's a rom-com. How about
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Not really. Yeah, but I will say I do think Glenn is better at the comedy than Frank Langella is
Oh, for sure. I
personally. Like,
mean, he's curmudgeonly and
yeah.
she is like effervescent.
Yeah, but I mean, even within those roles too, like there's a
Hmm.
particular. I had to just write this down, even though it has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. But this whole scene where they're in the car together and they're talking about how like, oh, you are so accepting. Frank Langella's telling her this, while whereas I'm like having my hesitation about it. And then the way he says, are you just going to leave your husband to fight the battle himself? Like you did that time at karaoke night when you put down your microphone and walked off the stage because you couldn't read the words to It Had to Be You? First of all, just like the cumbersome kind of line joke reading of that is very difficult, I think, for any actor to make work, but he does not make that joke land at
No.
all. I would have asked for another take.
Mm,
Like,
Another take and like cut that sentence in half.
or
Like
that. Yeah. It's too much. Yeah. But
it's
I get
yeah.
why you don't want to upset Frank Langella to ask for another take because he can be quite grumpy himself. But
Yeah. Hmm.
anyway, but she gets kind of a nice little monologue after that where she says, I think that there are two forces on Earth you don't ever want to be fighting. One is Mother Nature and the other is love. She's lovely. It's not an ideal situation, but she adores my son. How can any sensible parent not feel warmly towards someone who adores their child? That is practically antisocial. Which is very nice, very supportive view, obviously. It does just feel like very writerly, though, the way that she
Hmm.
just kind of spells things out in that way that is like not really consistent with the character we've come to know, even from like one other scene. So I'm just like, okay, thanks for spelling it out. I guess that's just your worldview, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, they just have so much to say. And, talking about something like Greta Gerwig, who can
Yeah.
write a monologue.
Hmm.
Instead, we have someone who's like, what if I write a run-on sentence that I'm considering to be a monologue? And then let
Yes.
me follow it up with a monologue that is absolutely not consistent with this character, but I want to be shoehorned in here so that people understand what my thesis is, even though I
Yep.
don't even know what it is.
Yes, even though he should have asked someone else to say, does this make sense?
Hmm.
You know? I mean, she has like what, like one other scene probably at yeah, when they're at the big New Yorker banquet ceremony thing where it's just
Yeah,
like basically every character in the movie
is
is
there.
joins because that's just how it is, and including Jane, who I guess he's friends with now. Jane is the mistress of
Hmm.
the woman's husband, played by Olivia Thirlby. Very odd relationship going on there that maybe we could explore too.
So odd. It's just like she feels like she came out of like a Greta Gerwig movie while she was still acting, kind of thing. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Damsels in Distress, but like, I felt like she
No.
was just transported from this like weird Whit Stillman film. And here she is playing this mistress. And I'm like, what the hell? And she works for like this big publishing firm, I
Yeah,
guess.
how convenient.
It was so convenient. Everyone works in the same industry. And I thought it was so weird too, talking about the script making absolutely no sense. She gives him kind of a very innocuous thing to say to her boss so that Brian comes off as polite when they meet. And he says the very innocuous thing to say. And this publishing guy is just like, oh, did Jane tell you to say that? And I'm like, literally, any normal person would have said that.
Yeah.
Why? What is happening?
Yeah. Uh, everything to do with that character confused me, to be honest.
Everything. Girl
Yeah.
was fighting for her life. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it seemed like to me that they were going to end up together in the end because they
Hmm.
had pretty decent chemistry, I guess. So
Yeah,
they seem
I
like they're
think,
like on the same page and like, I don't know. It's a very odd choice what they do with that character to be.
yeah. I mean, I think that maybe my hot take for this movie too is I think that they had better chemistry
100%.
than anyone else in the
Then, yeah.
movie did.
Yeah. But there just like is never a discussion about them getting together. But okay. I mean, men and women can be friends. I've seen
They
When Harry
can't,
Met Sally, but
yeah.
like, still, it felt like there were sparks flying between them, and they seemed like they're at the kind of the same place, and they've been through the same thing of specifically dating this married couple together. So
Hmm.
they have shared experience. So like,
Yeah.
what's the deal there?
I mean, and she's literally the only woman who has any sort of agency in the movie because she leaves Ariel's husband
Yes.
when she finds out what happened with Brian. And I'm like,
Okay.
girl,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
I had a whole thing planned about this because I was furiously writing notes when that was being developed. Audibly groaned when she goes to his apartment towards the end and she says she broke off her relationship with Valerie, this husband, because quote, being around him and around her felt like a betrayal to my friendship to you.
So weird.
And it's like, how are we not leading up to them not being together? Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
save, and it just got bad to worse as it went on, just with how he gets the book published eventually called The Mermaid because of Ariel. I mean, what are we doing? And Jane brings him to a bookstore and acts like a lunatic while they're looking at it in the window, and he just does not care because Ariel is the one that got away at this point, only for Ariel to walk up like a minute later to the same storefront and is watching and just looking at that book with just beautiful kind of admiration. And then we got the swelling strings of the score going on, like we're in the English Patient or something. And it's like,
Ugh.
what is happening? Like, is this meant to be ironic? No, it's played very straight.
Hmm. It was also giving very, on film that you and I have watched, End of the Affair, where I'm just like, no one has chemistry. This is way too melodramatic to even be interesting. What
Yeah.
are we doing? And obviously, so much on the nose with like every single plot point that like
Yeah.
when we get to our like bajillionth ending
Mm-hmm.
where he runs into Ariel and Valerie and they're now teenage children
Yes.
with his wife and he's acting all weird about it and I'm just like, dude, you were 24.
Yeah.
Time has passed. Your brain has fully developed. Get
Yeah.
it together. Like, what is this weird yearning for this woman who you dated once, who made it abundantly clear at the end that, like, she's choosing her family over you?
Yeah. Right. MoveOn.org. Truly.
Yes.
Yeah, I also say the Wikipedia page for this, which I did have pulled up for most of the movie, because
Hmm.
I was just like, how is this making any sense as a movie? It says at the end a few years later, but watching this movie, it was like, this man is like balding and like looks
Hmm.
visibly older and has a wife and a toddler. So it's at least 10 years later. Just
Yes.
fact checking Wikipedia there. But yeah, they're very like wistful moment together. And she shows him the ring, I think, that he gave
Yeah.
her, which for some reason she is still wearing. Which I don't know how her husband feels about that. Does he know that she is still wearing this ring that this man who once proposed to her while she was married to another man? Okay. I by the end I was just like, can we wrap it up, please? Like, shut it down. Like,
Yeah.
it gets too absurd for me.
Yeah. That, and also, why did we have all these intercuts with park bench like dedications
Oh,
for
yeah,
that to like amount to nothing? It was like, let me try to steal some sort of gimmick akin to When Harry Met Sally, but instead of doing
yeah,
anything meaningful like they did in When Harry Met Sally, I'm gonna do nothing with this, but
yeah.
give you so many different endings.
Yeah, it's just like these little intercut little plaques with just like little phrases and like odes to various loves that people have had in the past,
Hmm.
but like right, it doesn't amount to anything ultimately. So like, what are we
It,
doing?
it makes no sense.
But look, I hope Glenn had fun. You know,
Yeah.
she got to be a comic relief, which she doesn't always get to do. So yeah,
Yeah. And I feel like she also befriended Anton Yelchin in this film
yeah,
because she did appear in the documentary following
mm,
his death. And so, like, I think that that's probably, so many people work on really bad movies together, but the relationships that form and then continue on afterwards, I think are nice little odes to those weird but meaningful moments for creative people like that.
yeah. And I mean, Glenn is really kind of a collector of like people as
Hmm.
she went through her career and continues to go through her career. Like she just maintains these connections with her
Hmm.
co-stars that is quite moving. Like she did the same thing with obviously Robin Williams. That was like a lifelong friendship for
Yeah.
her, and even appearing in like the Christopher Reeve documentary
Yeah.
recently, talking about his relationship to Christopher Reeve, Robin. So yeah, she's a good friend, Glenn.
Hmm. Yeah. And she's a good person to like, you know, give perspective on the people that she got the privilege to know. And I think that she
Exactly.
obviously very much sees it as a privilege. So love
Yes.
her for that.
Yeah. So I guess those are our final thoughts on the movie. 5 to 7 is Glenn
Yeah.
is a good friend.
Yeah. Glenn is a great person in comparison to how stupid this movie was.
And now we said it. Yes.
Hmm.
Well, I don't really have anything else on this movie. I don't know if you have anything you wanted to rant
No.
about otherwise. So, okay. I think it's time to move on to our other movie today, which I have a feeling will be a shorter segment based on the material or lack thereof for
Hmm.
Glenn. So, this is written and directed by the actor Tim Blake Nelson, who, unlike Victor Levin, had actually directed some films before this, including Eye of God, O, The Gray Zone, and Leaves of Grass. And so Anesthesia, like 5 to 7, is set in New York City. So Tim really wanted to make a movie about what it means to live in New York. He said he was inspired by James Franco, actually, who was directing him in a lot of films at that time and was like an actor turned director type. I don't know. It was 2014. But he said in an interview that he wanted to make a movie set in New York, but I wanted to make it only when I was ready. And it has taken a long time, but I've always yearned to do it. I don't think you could write this kind of movie without having an intimate relationship with this city. For me, that took living here, being married, and raising a family here. He didn't say much else about the inspiration for the movie, but it's kind of about that. It's kind of about how our lives interconnect and how each of us is trying to self-medicate to one degree or another to help ease the pain of just living life, which is where the title Anesthesia comes from. So for casting, he basically put out feelers for a lot of different actors, including Glenn, who has a small part here as Marcia, the wife of the kind of de facto main character played by Sam Waterston. So there's also, I mean, you beautifully teed up what you just said with the friendship there, because Sam said in an interview that it was gracious of her to be in the movie, which felt like, very nice of her to like show up kind of feeling. But they had previously worked together in a play called Benefactors back in 1985, and they had been friends ever since. So he said in an interview, she's one of those people who has a real talent for friendship. I thought that was very sweet and very articulate. So, to summarize Anesthesia, it's an ensemble indie drama set in New York City over the course of a day, I think. It kicks off with this shocking act of implied violence with Sam Waterston's character, Walter Zero, a philosophy professor, being mugged and stabbed and begging for help. We then flash to about 24 hours later as we go or earlier, I mean, as we go through the lives of several interconnected people to this event, including Sam as he's on the brink of retiring from his job. We meet Kristen Stewart as Sophie, one of his troubled students who self-harms. We meet Corey Stoll as Sam, the man who ultimately helps Walter after his stabbing. We see that he is a married man having an affair in the city. We also see his wife, Gretchen Mall, as Sarah, his lonely wife who often gets drunk to ease the pain. We also have another storyline involving Michael K. Williams as a lawyer named Jeffrey who helps his childhood friend, K. Todd Freeman as Joe, kick his drug addiction by admitting him to a clinic. How that comes into play with all this, we will later learn. We also get a storyline with Walter and Marcia's son, Adam, played by Tim Blake Nelson, and his wife, Jill, Jessica Hecht, who is diagnosed with a potentially terminal illness, and their teenage kids who are dealing with high school drama. It's a big interconnected web, one of those ensemble dramas that are hit or miss. So, yes, Morgan, I am so eager to get your thoughts on Anesthesia and Glenn's blink and you miss it performance here. I don't know how else to
Yeah,
describe it.
it really is. She is there, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, where did she go? Come back.
Yep.
I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Rose on that door going, come back to the lifeboat. Like
Hmm.
I needed more.
Yeah.
Considering that there was also so much going on. Tim Blake Nelson really loves to direct crimes against cinema, like just awful, awful movies. I've only had the misfortune of watching Oh,
And you said, "Oh
terrible.
no."
Oh no, indeed. Yeah, this was just, it was all over the place. There was nothing, they were like, all of this is interconnected. And I was like, okay, but also, is it? Like,
Yeah.
it just feels so disjointed. I feel like, was his writing just like him doing the Charlie Day red string thing,
Yeah.
going like, and then this person is like here,
Yep.
and then Mickey Sumner is here for some reason, and like we're just gonna keep adding random people into this movie. It
Yeah.
was so what a riddle that can never be solved. I do not comprehend how someone can get so many people into a movie like
Yeah.
this.
So many talented actors, you know?
So many talented
Hmm.
actors, and they're doing the most in the worst ways. Like,
Yeah.
no one has anything, no direction. Gretchen Mol, like, innocent, but like, my God, what is happening in that storyline?
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart, I was like, someone save her, get her out of here. She was more locked in those Twilight movies than she was here. Like, and I don't blame her because this movie is bad. It is
Yeah.
baffling. And again, like Glenn Close is in a total of three scenes.
Yep.
One of them, she's just basically crying the whole time, which, like,
Hmm.
excellent that you can sustain that.
Sure.
Great skill to have.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, she's just like, hey, Sam Waterston. And then, oh no, Sam Waterston. That's all she's
I
got.
mean, really. Yeah, that's it.
It
Those were
is,
the notes.
it's
Yeah.
so bad. And also so unrealistic. How are you getting diagnosed with an illness and then the next day going in for surgery? This is
Great
America.
point.
What are we doing? Like, what reality are we living in?
This actually takes place in an alternate dimension. That's the twist.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. This is taking place in an ideal version of America,
Hmm.
one that Mom Donnie has been dreaming of,
Yes.
as he ascends as
Hmm.
mayor of New York. It's so bafflingly bad.
Yeah, I agree. Sadly. Because, like, I like Tim Blake Nelson as an actor, generally
Hmm.
speaking. But to your point, behind the camera,
Crimes.
yeah, this was a rough one for me. First of all, maybe I was predisposed to just have my arms crossed going into it because I am so sick and tired of these ensemble stories of interconnected lives. I'm so sick of it. I have come across quite a few of them doing the Glenn pod. Apparently, Glenn really enjoyed doing these in the 2000s and 2010s here, too, because this and the Chum Scrubber and Nine Lives and things you could tell just by looking at her and the safety of objects, all of these anonymous films that are about like interconnected people and how we all crash into each other in order to live or whatever the fuck. It's just, I'm sick of it. There's nothing new to be said in any of these movies. I'm
I
so
mean,
tired.
they did it with like what? Love Actually, and then that's all studios wanted. And they were like, Gary Marshall,
Yeah.
get on this. Like the
Yeah.
poor man's end of his career was just all of these interconnected
My God. Yeah.
melodramas. And it's
Hmm.
like, this is the man who gave us the Princess Diaries. Please do not subject him to this garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. But, or like the prestige version is like Crash, which got so many imitators after that. Babel and
Mhm.
like all these turgid little dramas about little interconnected lives. I'm so sick of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like if you want an ensemble, like make people be trapped in a house together. Like, give me
Absolutely.
those types of indie films where you're
Mm-hmm.
stuck in a place. Do not try to sit here and act like all these people's lives somehow connect with each other. Like, there are also 8 million other people in this city. Like,
Yeah.
you're just all only the same, like, Broadway adjacent people are going to be
Right.
in your circle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ay, yay.
Yes. Obviously, I'm not completely against these kinds of movies. Robert Altman, I think, was the master of making these kinds of stories like a Nashville or like a Shortcuts, that kind of thing, with a real point of view. This, to me, feels so choppy, as you were saying. Like, I guess all of these characters are sort of tied together by the idea of like self-soothing or trying to ease their pain in some way and wanting connection, I guess, too, as well, but it's too vague and
Yeah.
also kind of generic in a lot of the stories presented here. It's just like all these types. It's the bored housewife without much dimension. It's a man having an affair and feeling like this kind of malaise in his life. Don't care. It's a man addicted to drugs who just wants to connect with his childhood friend again. It's the loner at school who doesn't fit in. It's the professor who ties everything together with his overlong speeches. It's the wife, because Glenn apparently had a role as the wife before the wife.
Hmm.
It failed to really engage me on any level. And I mean, we talked about the writing of 5 to 7, but the dialogue in this
Oof.
movie is somehow worse.
Like, we spent so much time complaining about that. I think I can only make noises to describe how bad. It's just a string of frustrated onomatopoeias to
Yes.
describe how bad this writing is. And even, you mentioned Robert Altman. I think one of the ways in which his films worked so beautifully was he wasn't forcing these storylines to come together until there was like a natural point of cohesion. Because I mean, he
Right.
did that. I mean, even with his film about like Buffalo Bill, there are these big ensemble pieces that he did where it's like you're learning a little bit here, you're learning a little bit there, and then all of a sudden we can start to coalesce and like consolidate where we are story wise and
Right.
where we are even just physically in a space. And like, that's brilliant. Meanwhile, Tim Blake Nelson was like, what if I did that, but worse in every single way possible?
Yes.
It's, and like the dialogue, I'm like, have you talked to a human person?
Right. Actually, I found this interview with Tim Blake Nelson where
Mm.
he said his characters here are unapologetically literate and unafraid to talk about ideas, which is fine in itself, but I think even that aspect of it is so overdone, the kind of like formality of how a lot of them speak. Even if I agree with maybe some of the points being made, like about how we're all kind of searching for meaning or whatever and connection, and we're all self-soothing and all that, and how we affect each other's lives in ways we don't understand. That is all interesting material that could be worth chewing on, but it just is so overly written. It feels
Hmm.
totally schematic and like this is all like predetermined in a way that like I feel like goes against the message of the film, which is generally not great.
Hmm.
When the film itself seems to be like in conflict with the message of what these characters are saying about how random things are, but this all feels like this connects here, this connects here. To your point, it's the Charlie Day situation of just like this is how this affects this and all that. And I don't know, it just is not interesting on any level.
No. And like also to like act like education and literacy and like I get it. I've been seeing the clips from Love Island USA. The children were left behind. But I think that there is a way
Sure.
to like be able to have highbrow
Mm,
dialogue and conversations without trying to alienate most of your audience, which I think that this film
yeah.
tries, like actively tries to do. It tries to be like this pious, sometimes pernicious, that's right,
Mm.
I'm using a fancy
Ooh.
ass word to
Wow, you are
say
unapologetically literate.
I am unapologetically literate.
Wow.
You have people like Joan Didion and Greta Gerwig, who can write these like really great prose in their films. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Panic at Needle Park, I think there's a lot of that film that has not aged beautifully, but I think a lot of the writing is
Yeah.
very interesting in it. And like these are women who largely write in very prestigious kind of upper echelon educated ways, but their essence of what they're trying to talk about is never diluted
Right.
by their writing style. And I think him trying to be this like pseudo intellectual is so blatantly obvious. I mean, if
Yeah.
James Franco, another pseudo intellectual, is your um
Inspiration.
North
Yeah.
Star there, then like you're really doomed to fail because there's
Yeah.
nothing about being someone who believes themselves smarter and better than the audience that they want to try to talk to through their art.
Talk down to, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, it's a belittling, buffoonish attempt at like trying to come across as like, I'm here and interested in the ways in which people interact with each other, but I don't think that I've ever talked to a normal human who exists in the world because
Yeah.
there is no nuance. There is just whatever some jackass wrote in a op-ed one time. Like it's
Mm.
Joe Rogan talking points
Not Joe Rogan.
from guys who are educated in the Ivy League. It's
Mm.
so
Hmm.
stupid and asinine.
Yeah, but doesn't it just make sense though, learning that like James Franco was an
Uh-huh.
inspiration for this? Like, oh, it all connects now. Makes sense.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
truly it's like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
of
There it is.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yep. What an absolute waste of Glenn Close, too. Like, in addition to the many crimes we just talked about, she has given absolutely nothing of substance to do outside of a little bit in the last 10 minutes or so. Like, I guess she captures a certain kind of lived in quality that the role is requiring of her to make you believe that this couple has been together for years and that they still love each other and all that with Sam Waterston. They both seem very much like they would be into each other, like respect each other's intellect, like they make sense together.
Hmm.
But she has no arc, no story to speak of other than her relationship to him until the end. Like she gets a handful of scenes interspersed in the first 80 minutes, but it's not until she comes around at the hospital to be a grieving wife that she is given the opportunity to add any kind of Glenn Close isms to the
Yeah.
role. It's just, I hate to say it, it truly feels like one of those roles that I feel like any decent actress her age could have played,
I don't
even
even
like
think you
below
need,
her, you
yeah,
know?
I was gonna say, I don't even think you need to be a decent actress. It is like,
Yeah.
how about you turn your whole brain off and just read these dumb lines from this dumb man? And here's probably pennies because it's an independent film that you're doing
Yes.
for this,
Mm-hmm.
jag off of a guy. I
Oh my God.
don't understand
Mm-hmm.
why. I mean, again, God bless her for doing it and still being friends with Sam Waterston afterwards,
Yeah.
because I think I would have to like have a serious conversation of like, what made you think that I should be this role in
Yeah.
this movie written by this man?
Yes.
I would question our friendship a little
Maybe
bit.
a little. Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
that's to his point. He said it was like a nice favor that she did for
mhm.
being in this movie, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, like, it is kind of like when your friend is like, oh, here's a meme that made me think of you. And you're like, okay, thanks for thinking of me. But why this?
Yeah. Right.
What about this made you think
Yeah.
of me?
Actually, let's
Um,
interrogate that. Yeah.
yeah, because this feels a little bit like a backhanded compliment in some way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, she really has nothing to do. And even when she gets the opportunity to kind of do something, this movie, which by the way is under 90 minutes, feels like it's close to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Um, she like she can't even muster enough of her own magic to be like, yeah, let me really sell this because there's nothing to sell
There's
because
nothing.
it's
Yeah.
all bullshit.
I mean, you said it. It's the script is always the foundation. And
Hmm.
when you have like a shaky foundation, to be diplomatic about it, they're not going to make much of it. So,
Yeah. I mean,
nothing to build
it's
off of.
it's like watching a pigeon build a nest. That's what
Mm.
this script, I don't know if you've seen, pigeons can't build nests because we domesticated them. And
Well,
so
that makes sense. Yeah.
they just put like a few twigs out and they're like, this is where my egg will go. And that was apparently Tim Blake Nelson's writing process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pigeon nest when
Yeah.
I mean again, when James Franco is your writing inspiration,
Yeah.
a pigeon nest at best will be what you get.
Yeah. Wow. I love this metaphor. Yeah. It's just such a like a non-specific role though that I sort of even fail to understand what appealed to her about it, other than I guess just working with an old friend. Like that's it. Or she just wanted a low lift because like I talked about this on the Guardians episode. I think in the aftermath of doing all of that for 5 seasons of Damages, I think after that she wanted a bit of like a break, essentially, to just do like little supporting roles here and there, little independent films, plus be able to work because of working at Guardians of the Galaxy, getting a nice paycheck, being
Hmm.
able to do these little small independent films, not really have to fly out anywhere because she was living in New York at the time. And so that's just kind of it, I think.
Hmm.
I don't think she was particularly moved by this script, essentially.
I wouldn't imagine she
Yeah,
would
even
have
compared to
been.
5 to 7, I would just be
Yeah,
like, this just seems like clocking in, clocking out work for her.
yeah, it is go through the motions for 2 days of work at most.
Yeah.
Get out.
I truly feel like there's nothing to even talk about with the performance,
No.
sadly, because of what we've been saying. I really like, after like 2 scenes of seeing her in this movie, I was like, oh dear. Like, I got very concerned that this was truly just going to be the wife before there was the wife in capital
Hmm.
letters. And that's just what I got. And I was like, why are we not giving her any storyline at all for this?
Yeah.
It's because like even like a lot of these storylines didn't quite interest me either, to be honest. Like I don't know
Yeah.
if you had one in particular that was at least not bad.
I don't think that I literally was just sitting there going like all of these people are so thinly written.
Yeah.
Again, it's someone who thinks themselves to be an anthropologist but has only met three whole people in their entire life, writing about interpersonal dynamics and like the ways in which like mental health were quote unquote talked about. It really was
Yeah.
just like you've also never done any research. Like Google without AI existed at that point in time, and it would have worked for you to just type in what is a mental health hospital in New York City like? Give me some
Yeah.
details. And instead, he was like, I know because I am this well-educated, unapologetically literate man who can sit here and write whatever I want, when in reality, it's like, no, it's someone who is so insulated in a very particular community, thinking
Mm.
that watching the news or hearing sound bites about something gives them immense knowledge about a topic. And, as someone who has worked in mental health hospitals and has worked in mental health before, it was so egregious. I was like, this feels like someone who was like, I know what mental health hospitals are like. I watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, even though that's a movie that is at that point in time, like 40 some years old. So
Yeah.
it just, all of it was so bad. I, how did these people get duped into doing this? If you were in this movie, please write in and let us know what inspired you to
Hmm.
join this absolute dumpster fire of a movie? We can't even call it a film. It's not prestigious enough to even be called that.
I mean, this is a word that gets overused a lot, but I am going to use the P word in this case, which is I really do think this is a textbook definition of pretentious
Oh yeah.
as a film. It just has so many high minded ideas of what it's trying to be and never actually excels in exploring a single one of those ideas. And so I'm just left feeling like, okay, well, you've decided to call your film Anesthesia, and that feels appropriate for how I felt by the end of this movie. I truly felt anesthetized on every level in all of
Yes.
my emotions.
I mean, it did. I guess the one emotion that it did strike in me was immense anger.
Oh,
So,
here's one minor positive I will say about this movie. You mentioned Kristen Stewart earlier. What I think she really does nail quite well in here is that sort of just like the sort of swirling of sadness that she's
mm,
experiencing and the emptiness that she's struggling to really verbalize. She, in particular, has an energy, as we know, that some people, some haters, can find a little bit unnatural at times. But I think her particular style and vibe is quite well suited for
mm,
this character, and as someone who is speaking quite formally, and like feels like they're not connecting to other people in a way. Like in that way, I'm like, it does make sense to cast Kristen Stewart in this role, and she does a decent enough job with it. So there's that. Whenever we got to
yeah.
Kristen Stewart, I was like, this is not egregiously awful, just based on what she is giving.
Yeah.
But that
I
was it.
mean, Kristen Stewart, talk about an actor who can both write and direct. The
That's
chronology of
true.
water, incredible. Instead of wasting your time with this movie, I highly recommend checking out the chronology of water. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can, it has incredible sound design. So like really crank up your TV and enjoy probably one of the most stunning directorial debuts in the past year, couple years. It's
Mm-hmm.
really profound. Again, someone with like a voice and a vision,
Yeah.
which when you are a plain toast man like Tim Blake Nelson, you don't possess.
Wow, I cannot believe this segment has become the roast of Tim Blake Nelson. But
I,
you know what?
again, if James Franco is the person that is inspiring you to do anything, I need you
Mm,
to just kindly leave, go into some cave and be a man who complains about canceling by yourself.
hmm
I don't need that
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
exist in this world.
I mean, in the end, Glenn does get the final line of the film where her husband is in the hospital after being stabbed, and she just says, well, at least he's not in any pain, as he's being like anesthetized essentially because of his treatment. There's really not much else to say. Sadly, 0 out of 10 do not recommend. it's yeah, it's rough unless you are truly a diehard completist of any of these actors in this film. This is a warning for you that this is going to be a rough one for you, and if you're not a completist, please stay away. All right, so let's talk about the release of 5 to 7 first. So it premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival on April 19th, 2014, where it received a mixed reception, but leaning positive. Praise for the cast mostly, but quite a bit of criticism for its more cliched moments. IFC then acquired the film and released it a year later on April 3rd, 2015, in just 2 theaters. They also released it concurrently through video on demand, and it eventually expanded to 26 theaters in its third week. But that was it. It grossed a grand total of $137,000 in the US, 588,000 worldwide. It did not get any awards attention. So, yeah, any thoughts on why it didn't really connect? It wasn't really an indie breakout, even though reviews were maybe not as bad as they could have been.
Yeah, the 2010s, especially in the middle of the 2010s, you really have this explosion of independent films just like breaking into the mainstream. I mean, like even films like Ruby Sparks or Sleeping with Other People, these movies that we've already talked about, like they may not have had extremely wide releases, but we are getting more independent films into theaters. And so it was becoming really crowded at that time of like, we have to kind of like give and take. Are we showing a Frances Ha? Are we showing something else? What is already in awards conversations? And especially when you have a film like that released in April, that is a gamble because
Mhm.
sometimes it's going to hit like Obvious Child did, and it had legs for a really long time. But that wasn't common at that time. Like anything released probably summer onward is when you started to see those films retain some kind of
Yeah.
momentum. But it was just really like a crowded field. And so if you're released at a time where it's kind of like, we're just kind of dumping you, it kind of feels like the January dump, but like independent films at the time, anything in the first half of the year is kind of unfortunately a dump for them. So yeah, that's kind of how you have a film that wasn't like completely tarnished
Mhm.
in its initial reviews at Tribeca, but it wasn't something that I'm sure IFC was like, let's just put it in our own theater. Let's maybe, depending on how sales go, release further from there. But like home video was also kind of that VOD was starting to take hold. And so they were like, let's just get that as an option for folks who aren't in New York City.
Yeah, obviously it wasn't ever going to be a box office smash. I do think its appeal is a little bit limited, even like with conceptually, the concept of open marriages and that whole thing is something
Mhm.
that I think Americans maybe, you know, maybe a decade or so later they might be more warmed up to the idea, but it just wasn't something that American moviegoers really wanted to see, generally speaking.
Mm-mm.
So there's that, and I think we love Anton Yelchin. He was well liked. Wasn't really a movie star, so that's
No.
a little tough. And I think the lead actress Berenice wasn't really a star at all, to be honest. So that's tough.
Mm-mm.
Like maybe you're gonna get a few of the older folks who be like, "Oh, Glenn is in a movie," or "Frank Langella's in a movie." I don't know if Frank Langella has
Yeah.
fans, but you know, there's something to that, I suppose. But I just don't think there was a lot of appeal ultimately to the movie, and it is so
Yeah.
small that there wasn't even much of an opportunity for it to be big.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
yeah, and unless you're getting like awards attention, it's just not going to attract huge crowds
Yeah.
more often than not. So, I think that explains that pretty nicely. And with Anesthesia, I almost said Anastasia. Wish we could talk about Anastasia, but much like 5 to 7, this did get a Tribeca release one year and a theatrical release the next year. And much like 5 to 7, this movie was also bought by IFC out of Tribeca.
Hmm.
So this one debuted at Tribeca on April 22nd, 2015. Reviews were not great, especially for the screenplay. But at least out of the festival, they were positive enough that Tim Blake Nelson said that he was pleasantly surprised by the reception. So we love a drag delusion. But
Hmm.
IFC bought it and they released it in theaters on January 8th, 2016. And much like 5 to 7, they released it VOD concurrently as well. And this one had an even smaller box office release, premiering in just one theater and expanding to, get ready for this, 7 in its
Whoa.
second weekend. That was the peak. And it grossed $26,000 in the US in total, with a worldwide total of 61,000. So really came and went.
Yeah.
But why did this one not really connect, even to a lesser degree?
I mean, you got the January dump
Yeah,
in
you
there.
said it already. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like, I do think it did have enough like bigger names. I mean, you have Kristen Stewart, who especially at that time was still someone that audiences were going out to see.
Yeah.
Again, maybe some older folks love Law and Order, so they're like, Waterston, let's go.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think everyone knew that the movie was bad, and so they like let's get rid of this in January and let's hope that some person who is like desperate to get out of probably a New York City winter is like, fine, I guess I'll see this random movie.
For the
And that
heat.
was their, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me get out of the cold into a theater, and I guess this will be what I watch. I've done that before.
Hmm.
Have never subjected myself to anything this bad though.
Okay. Well, yeah. And I think just the subject matter was a little too bleak, to be honest.
Yeah,
And the reviews were bad by the time of its theatrical release,
hmm,
which is just like
for
that.
sure.
That is a tough combination to overcome if the movie is unappealing on its own for a general audience and the reviews are bad. It's like pick a struggle, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I never heard of it, and I'm a stan of Glenn Close, and I follow her career religiously, especially now, obviously. But even then, I felt like I was like trying to watch a lot of her movies, but this was like
Hmm.
had no idea it existed. At least 5 to 7
Yeah.
had a bit more of a commercial appeal that at least made me hear about it. This is just like, is this a real movie? I would argue after
Hmm.
watching it, I still don't know.
Yep. Yep.
Not exactly, difficult to explain why neither of those movies really connected with people because we talked about the failures of the movies themselves. So,
Yep. Yep.
a very easy solve in that case. But let's get to our last segment where we're going to rate Glenn's performances on a very specific scale, starting with 5 to 7, thinking about her performance as Arlene Bloom. Is she ready for her close up? Is it close but no cigar? Is it low glenergy? Or, of course, we have our other categories now, serving in silence, which is delivering a great supporting performance, or gleniscent, meaning she's good, but the project is not.
I would consider 5 to 7 a glenniscent moment
Okay.
because the movie's not good. It's
Hmm.
not good. She delivers. She's delivering for a completely different movie, but she's great nonetheless.
Yeah. Gleniscent for me as well. Close to serving in silence, but just the quality of the movie prevents me from being like,
Yeah.
yes, she is like a contributing factor in what makes this movie good. Like, she is good individually, but like in service of what?
Hmm.
Ultimately,
For sure.
like we said, it seems like it's kind of coming from a different movie or television sitcom at times, but she nails all her lines. She gets to be Goofy Glenn, and I'm sure she had some fun on that set. So it's not like egregiously bad, but
No.
I am also just like, you know what? She got a nice paycheck out of that. She got to make friends with Anton Yelchin, so I'm sure she's perfectly fine with appearing in this. But
For sure.
let's talk about the other one here, her performance as Marcia. I had to look up to see
Hmm.
if that was her real name. And in Anesthesia. What do you think?
I mean, it's low glenergy, bordering on girl, you're in danger from Ghost.
Oh no.
Like, it just, she has so little to do in that movie. I feel so bad, but the movie is worse. So that's all I can give her.
Yeah, it's hard to even say she's Gleniscent, to be honest. I do think this is low Glenergy. Like, other than the final scene or so, there is truly nothing for her to do. It is ultimately kind of an anonymous performance before that, which I really hate to say. But she has none of her classic Glenn magic in this.
No.
And I just wish that another actress took the part so I didn't have to watch the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Hard agree.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's hard to say, even though that, like, it is local energy. That does imply, like, a certain, coming up short on Glenn's part. But in certain cases like this, it really is just like, what is there to even say? And that's what
Yeah.
makes it local energy. So,
I mean, when you have nothing to do, how much energy can you bring,
exactly.
Joel?
Right, right. But Morgan, thank you so much for joining me on this weird little detour in Glenn's career in these specifically IFC films set in New York of the mid 2010s.
Thank you so much for letting me come back to talk about Glenn and shit on male directors. It was really a great time.
I mean, I know it's your favorite pastime, so I had to give you a platform for that.
Thank you.
Yes. Where could people find more of you on the internet? Talking about good movies, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, most times, yes.
Most times.
Sometimes support women's rights and wrongs, and sometimes those wrongs are things that we got to talk about. But you can follow me, Female Gaze, the Film Club, both on Instagram, Blue Sky. Episodes are released every Sunday. Speaking of Tribeca, just got done with the Tribeca Film Festival. We're now in our Summer of Editor series, so we're having some fun time over there. So come hang out with us. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe I'll appear at one point, perhaps soon. We shall see.
Maybe we shall see.
Yes. Thank you all so much for listening. You can find me at Kevin_Jacobsen on Twitter and Instagram. Just Kevin Jacobsen, no underscore on Blue Sky. You could also listen to my Oscar-themed podcast, And the Runner-Up Is, for coverage of every Best Actress race. That's And the Runner-Up Is on all platforms. You can also go to patreon.com/andtherunnerup-is for early access to these episodes and bonus episodes of And the Runner-Up Is, such as my A Woman Robbed series, where Morgan recently joined me as well to talk Chase Infinity and Amanda Seyfried. Loved that episode. And yeah, to keep up with the world according to Glenn on social, follow The Glenn Pod, rate, review, and follow on all podcast platforms. And with that, I'll bid you all adieu.